What is something that is expensive, but only owned by poor people? Single items of things that should be bought in bulk. Like single rolls of toilet paper. Barely scraping by paycheck to paycheck means buying bulk is sometimes impossible. In poorer sections of a city, convenience stores and liquor stores sell single cigarettes. Lucy, taught to me by the Chappelle Show. I bought Lucy's from the corner shop in the late 60s. Liverpool. Shopping carts. This is funny in a sea of sadness. Okay. Bubbles. Debt. Lottery tickets. Well. 999,969% of lottery tickets. So you're telling me there's a chance. Having worked at a gas station, there are a few rich people who buy lottery tickets for the fun of it. Bad credit. It is expensive to make someone comfortable enough to loan you money without them being certain you'll pay it back. A lot of companies like cell phone service providers will make you put down a large deposit before they'll sign a contract. Pretty much anything with a contract is more expensive if your credit is bad. I wasn't taught money skills growing up and was stupid as a teenager, so my credit has been a struggle to rebuild. Loads of stuff. It's expensive being poor for a variety of reasons, including having to buy poorer quality goods and needing to replace them more often because of initial cost. Not being able to bulk buy. Predatory loans. And really anything that puts someone in a "you have no other choice" position. On top of that, there are things like cheap food being bad for your health and incurring expensive health bills later in life. Continuing paying rent on something you'll never own. Cheap cars that require maintenance more often. Being poor is expensive AF. Cheap equipment of all sorts. Like dollar store items that really shouldn't be available in the dollar store. This is the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. Link. The summary is based on Boots. As you might expect from the name. Where the laborer only makes enough to pay for cheap boots. Let's say $50-ish. Meanwhile the foreman, or person in charge, can afford expensive boots. Let's say $100-ish. The catch is that the $50 boots only last one season. Where the $100 boots last many seasons. The poor laborer can never afford the expensive boots. But over any length of time beyond a single season, ends up paying more for boots than anyone that can afford a better, higher quality pair. Because they're buying boots every season. I always see everything in a dollar store by this metric. Sure, it's cheap, and if you only ever intend to use it once or a few times, then that's fine. Anything you need to use more than once, go somewhere else. A good modern example would be pots and pans, bakeware and similar. At a dollar store, even if you get a reusable baking tin, it's likely going to fail or rust or otherwise become unusable long before something that's 10x the cost at Walmart. Even the Walmart tin will likely last hundreds of times longer than the dollar store tin. If you're poor, the best thing you can do for these types of items is to buy them from thrift shops. Anywhere they sell used goods. Buying a nice but used item will last longer and cost less in the long run than something you buy at the dollar store. But dollar stores are immensely successful. Because people are penny wise but pound foolish. I've also seen the LPT though. That you should buy the cheapest of everything at first. With exceptions for safety gear. Keeping lead away from children. Etc. Then if something breaks in a year, you replace it with the better version. Because some of the dollar store stuff will last forever. Or you'll realize you really only use it twice a year. So dollar store is fine. This is exactly what I do. Harbor Freight is my go-to for first pass for tools. If it lasts, it lasts. If not, I buy the proper stuff. I save money only buying the expensive equipment I need. One caveat. A lot of the allegedly good stuff is made in China too and breaks almost as fast. When that happens, it's back to Harbor Freight. Manufacturing process is more important than the brand. I bought Sorel boots this season at the behest of many people. They leak. I spent a Minnesota winter in leaky $120 boots. Found out they switched manufacturing to China a few years ago. So all the people who said, "Mine have lasted 5 years," we're basically talking about a completely different product. MLM equipment. Edit. Bonus points because it makes poor people even poorer. Dental problems. Those impacted wisdom teeth are hella expensive. Being poor is very expensive. I make enough to pay my rent, but I work so much I don't have time for a dental appointment. Quote, even with a stimulus check and priorities in place and a paycheck, I could lose my house if my landlord isn't understanding. Quote, I need a job. I applied for McDonald's because it's easy and I'm broke and need the money. They need me to buy shoes and pants before I start. Quote, I have money left over from my paycheck, but that doesn't mean I can afford anything more than laundry detergent. It must be nice having fabric freshener and those beads that make clothes smell nice. Quote, I have to buy 2-in-1 because who can afford 2 bottles? Quote, I had to decide between car insurance or groceries. Quote, I haven't made a payment on my credit card in 2 years, even with a stimulus check. I've been driving an unregistered car for 6 months. Quote, I wish I could invest. But my son started school and he needed clothes and supplies. Quote, edit. Thanks for the silver. I don't think I quite deserve it just for pointing out real social issues we should all be aware of. Instead of giving me any more awards or anything, I would appreciate it more if you took the time to contribute some way to your local community. I also want to thank everyone for being civil and open-minded in discussion. I need a job. I applied for McDonald's because it's easy and I'm broke and need the money. They need me to buy shoes and pants before I start. Quote, it's not even that sometimes though. When times were hard for me, I tried to get a job at a few fast food places until I could get back into what I studied. Every single place told me I was overqualified. AKA they didn't want to hire anyone who would want a raise, think for themselves, etc. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to make some money so I don't lose my car and house. Rent to own. Spoiler. You never quite own it. I was going through a divorce in another state, and knew I was going to get my furniture at the end of the process. So I rented a cheap couch for like $10 for 2 to 3 months to put in my apartment until I got all my stuff. They tried to bully me into buying into all kinds of extra unneeded insurances. They were very forceful and condescending. Then one day, I honestly forgot to pay on the date payment was due. It was $10, and I easily had the money. So I was shocked at the level of anger and pushiness from the phone call reminding me payment was due. It made me feel very bad for the people who have to go through these situations and treatment in order to have furniture. Not to mention that the couch was complete junk. Did this when I first started out in life. I was literally 2 days late and the rude voicemail started. They would blow up your phone. When I made my last payment for that POS couch set with crappy tables, I was so relieved. Second best day was when I put it all on the curb when I bought something better at a regular furniture store. Places like Aaron's just make me mad. It seems like you're getting a good deal. But you aren't. You're paying like twice as much for an item. The Toyota on the street that speeds down the road sounding like a WW2 artillery strike. A perpetually broken car. I was leaving an abusive relationship that also ruined my credit. So my parents bought me a car so that I could survive once I got out. They overpaid and spent $3,000 on a 2002 Toyota Corolla with over 200,000 miles on it. It was nice gesture. But I'm now stuck paying them back every month. And I have spent over $1,500 in repairs on this car in the last year and it's still not running like it should. There's no way I could find another sucker to buy this piece of junk, so I'm stuck with it until I can pay it off or until I fix my credit. What a mess. Best advice I can give is to learn the car and how to work on it. Saves an absolute ton of money, and the threshold for getting into it is a lot lower than most people think. I can throw advice your way if you want more. Not the guy you're talking to. But I'd love for you to throw some of that intro to car repair advice at me. Cheers. Well, at my job there are a few people who I'm aware of their salary. They make around $25,000 a year after taxes. One of them somehow has a lifted Ford Raptor that I hear is like $50,000. He recently acquired a motorcycle too. He probably thinks it's cool, but he's likely eating the dirt off his tires because he can't afford anything else but those payments and insurance. Sounds like he has 2 jobs or doesn't pay for his housing. I'm sure he doesn't have another job. I am pretty sure he lives with his GF at her parents' house though. So that's probably it. Man, I remember how much money I thought I had when I lived with my parents. Long-term, near constant stress and worry over money. Definitely expensive in terms of physical and mental health. Bad teeth. When you can't afford a dentist visit and let your oral health slide. It can have all sorts of expensive health consequences, such as heart disease. Chrysler 300. You just brought back the funniest memory. My husband and I were looking at used cars. The hungry young car salesman told us he had something really special in the back. Walks us out there and shows us a Chrysler 300 that the former owner had bought huge. Chrome 22 inches wheels for. It's every homie's dream. Except my husband is the gingery whitest dad type ever and definitely not interested in this car. The kid put the cherry on the experience when he, straight face, said to my husband, "Can't you see yourself rolling on dubs?" My husband looked at me, totally lost and trusting me for translation. I was helplessly giggling at how badly the salesman had misread us, and we left. Now every time we see a car with big wheels I ask him if he'd like to roll on dubs. Lack of preventative care. Cheap shoes or cheap mattress leads to more expensive medical care. Lack of dental maintenance leads to expensive surgeries. That kind of thing. When you can't afford preventative medical care, it catches up to you, leading to more expensive costs later. I remember I had an old Chevy truck that cost so much to maintain and keep fuel in that I couldn't afford to save for another car. I literally kept me broke until I eventually joined the military and could afford a different vehicle. Crappy cars are more expensive than you realize. A lot of kids. The poor are often very fruitful. I am one of the lowest paid employees at my facility. I always wondered why some of my higher paid coworkers drove old run-down cars and I have a fairly new car. After a few years it clicked that they all have 2 to 4 kids and I don't. While kids are expensive, having a paid-off car is just so nice. So while I could 100% afford a nice newer or new car, why? A well taken care of older car is now paid off. Squirrel away what would be the payment and just keep living life. If it works and it's not a money pit, no real reason to upgrade. I agree with this so much. The amount of privates in the Army who have just enough money to pay for their 30% interest 2018 Ford Mustangs, but not enough money to buy literally anything else is pretty ridiculous. Edit. They're to their edit too. Thanks for the ignite, kind stranger. Funny to me that my highest rated comment is about how stupid privates can be. Just boot things. If you want some entertainment. The first thing they teach in basic needs to be financial management. So no ST there I was. Yesterday. Brand new private comes up to me and says he wants a new car. I am like, sweet, what are you looking at? This guy looks at me and says he wants a Hellcat. I about had a stroke. Prepay electricity meters. Though it was a movie thing. There really are people somewhere putting dollar coins into a meter to get light? I don't know about the US. But they exist in the UK. They aren't coin in the slot anymore. You put money on a card. But the worst thing about them is that they are often in rented accommodation for poorer people. And they charge a higher rate per unit of electricity than a normal meter. So the poorest people are charged more for the same thing. Edit. Well, that exploded. But now I have to add that a couple of people have pointed out that not all suppliers charge a premium these days. And there is now a limit to how much extra they are allowed to charge. I had a prepaid meter for many years when I first moved in with So, and we had nothing, and truly it was awful. The stress of watching the meter go down and down so fast, and then with the standing charge. It breaks your heart. It was years before I could actually afford to get a direct debit, and even though now I live in a bigger house with 2 kids now, I swear my bill is cheaper and no stress. All the situations like these make out they are there to help you. But honestly, all they do is keep you poor. It's so sad. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.